Hello, everyone. Welcome to Love, Awaken, and Prosper. Today we have an amazing talent with us, Jair Bula, who has written a show on, oh my God, this is really bad. I know it's queer, drugs, and a TikTok club.
Queer, drugs, and Tick Tock Clock.
Queer, drag, drugs, and a TikTok clock. Oh my God, that's a tongue twister.
It is.
Okay, that's the first thing I'm gonna ask you. How did you come up with that title? I mean, it's obvious, but what's up with the TikTok clock? What's that about?
Well, okay, so I didn't have a title for a really long time. So I wrote the piece and I just finished it, and that was like the last thing. I'm like, okay, I need to have a title on here. And I don't know how. I think it was just like the words drag, drugs, TikTok clock are in my piece. But I felt like, and so Juliet Jeffers, the co-developer, my director, my guide in all of this, she was like, that is such a good line, drag drugs, like dragging drugs. She's like, I feel like that should be something. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that should be part of the title. I don't know. Or maybe that should be like a whole thing on its own. So that was the last thing that I came up with. I was like, okay, the title has to be, so I came up with the title queer because for me, that's the word that I identify with the most as a gay man, as a queer man. Like that was the word that, because the show is about my coming to terms with my sexual identity and my identity, period. And so I struggled a lot with like, am I straight? Am I gay? Am I bi? What am I? Like, oh my God.
Well, that's a thing, right? That's a thing.
And then so the word queer is that word that I'm like, you know what? I am queer. That is what I am. I am in queer in the sense of like, I'm not like everyone else, meaning I'm not of the heterosexual majority. And I'm queer just because I'm unique, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
that's how that word came about to be in the title. And then dragging drugs, it just sounds so like,
Yeah,
and
that's a catchy one. Yes.
yeah, and it is a major part of the story.
Yeah.
And then of course a TikTok clock ended up being there because um it gets repeated over. You saw the show, so it gets repeated
Yes.
over and over in the piece, and it's a TikTok clock of life.
Work it just a little bit. It's the queen, y'all. It's the queen sitting here and I don't stop. Work it just a little bit. Work it just a little bit. It's the queen, y'all. It's the queen sitting here and I don't stop. Work it just a little bit. Work it just a little bit.
And we saw that. You represented. You saw the queer. You spoke about your drug addiction, and you look like you are such a hot, sexy mama in your drag. I'm like, oh, look at her. Okay, work it, girl. It was so much fun. You had me go, you just took us on a roller coaster ride, There were so many emotions and so many colors. And I love the effect that you had the screen in the background where you were showing like videos and poster,
Yeah,
pictures, right? I think you had slides and stuff.
that was actually and during the piece. That was
That's true.
image of that, just that alone, not the stuff that's on my little altar, but just that image alone. Actually, that was Juliet's idea to have that on there.
Let me ask you, what is that? Is that a specific thing that looks familiar? And I really don't. I'm not sure, but it looks familiar. What is it?
It's a sacred geometry symbol. And I'm not like an expert or anything, but it's from what I've read, it's a Metatron cube, Archangel Metatron cube. And what it does,
Oh,
if you meditate in front of it or while looking at it, like it really, helps you focus. Like if you're meditating with your eyes open, you could just kind of look at the center. It helps you kind of focus your energy and like, meditate that way. Or just having the symbol in your home or nearby, the sacred geometry of the Metatron cube, or it's also there has the flower of life in there as well. These symbols are supposed to elevate your energy, um, and just bring you to like a place of grace. So I
awesome.
put it in my living room and it ended up in my play. Yeah.
Yes, it did. I now that you had to point it out, but I remember it now.
Yeah.
In the slide. And okay, so let's talk about your show.
Tick tock, sings the quarantine clock with its ticks and its tocks. Traveling through time and space, I come to you. I see your memories of agony weighing you down like 1,000 tons of steel. My brother, so many tears and sadness, feeling the shame of confusion and self-loathing. Come to me. Rest right here on my chest. Breathe and be one with my love.
Right? The reason, you performed at the Los Angeles Fringe Festival and online, and I got to view the show online, and I think you just did another show somewhere else.
Well, no, yeah, it was the same. It was an extension of I won an encore award, which meant that I got to do it again.
Oh,
It
nice.
was in the same space where I did it. It was a Stephanie Fury Studio Theater in Hollywood. But this time we didn't live stream it. I just did it live. But all my 3 performances during the Fringe were all live streamed as well.
Yes, because I'm here in Atlanta and I got to see it. I didn't have to fly all the way to California to catch you. Isn't that great? I think that's one of the most transformational things that have happened during COVID. The fact that we have expanded because of through social media, through online screening, and we can actually just reach people all over the world now. We're not just limited to the 50 box theater, 100 people in the audience, 200. If you could reach the masses, like if you could reach thousands of people, of course with the with great marketing, right? What made you decide to talk about this specifically?
The play it's my life story of coming to terms with my queer identity as a gay man and my struggle with that. And that was the theme of my life for a really long time. And it's the journey um, of me, being a Colombian man, Latin man, growing up in a Latin culture in a very patriarchal type society, and how that affected, how that created expectations for me growing up. And then it moves on to me like transitioning to Miami, migrating to Miami, and coming across drag and drugs, um, and all the experiences uh, that affected that journey and that created conflict for me within myself. And including in that is the Catholic Church. So religion had something to do with that. Friends had something to do with that. Experience.
This internal battle of angel versus demon has gone on for many years. The confusion, not knowing where I fit in, not knowing how to define myself, feeling like I'm not straight, but I just couldn't be gay. Maybe I'm bi.
I was confused for a big part of my life because sexually I've enjoyed being with both men and women. The journey um, of me, being a Colombian man, Latin man, growing up in a Latin culture in a very patriarchal type society, and how that affected, how that created expectations for me growing up. And then it moves on to me like transitioning to Miami, migrating to Miami, and coming across drag and drugs, um, and all the experiences um, that affected that journey and that created conflict for me within myself. And including in that is the Catholic Church. So religion had something to do with that. Friends had something to do with that. Experiences, relationships had something, with all, to do with all that. And so I talk about how I come out of the closet, I do drag and drugs, and then I go back into the closet. I marry a woman, and after some time, I kind of realized, like, okay, I'm not really living my life genuinely. I'm not really being honest with myself as to who I am. And it the kind of culmination of all that is I finally get into a space of self-acceptance and the beginning of self-acceptance and self-love, because, like, to me, I feel like those are things that as human beings we're constantly working on, right? Loving
Yes.
ourselves, accepting ourselves. We're constantly dealing with, that negativity, um so the play is about that journey and
Yeah.
how I got to where I am today.
Yes.
Everything
You
that
know
I
what? In watching your play, you shared some insight for me because when I when I'm surrounded by like my friends who are gay and they just live openly. I always saw that they had this freedom, but I don't think that they've ever. I have my best friend, like my brother, my daughter's godfather. He's been gay, and he shared some of his stories, and I have I definitely support the gay community, and but I wasn't. I haven't seen that struggle that you were experiencing. A lot of people don't get it. They get a lot of we're moving to a space of acceptance or of knowing or not hiding and just allowing people to say this is who I am, and don't be shocked by it and don't put me down. And it's but stories like yours can really open up the I haven't seen it on TV either. I haven't seen them say, not really. I mean, I don't know. I probably don't watch too much TV, but I haven't heard, that struggle of somebody going back and forth and trying to figure out who they are, and maybe in talk show hosts and stuff like that. But
Yes.
tell me a little bit more if you don't mind. I don't think you went into it a little bit, but I'm curious to ask you about your parents. Like if you want to share that. Um, how did when you finally came, like, because now you have a show, right? I don't know. Have your family members seen it, and how have they accepted it? Have they accepted it? Have they accepted you? Accepted you?
Yeah, so part of my struggle was, having to do with my family. Um, and for a long time, I was sort of like in a space with them where I was kind of resentful, and part of the conflict did come from the upbringing, and, and
Mhm.
however, I know that the things that were said and done that came from them came from a place of love and trying to protect me. I talk about that I grew up in a barrio in Barranquilla called San Pacho. It's a barrio, you know, lower class to like middle working class people living there. Everybody's hustling. Everybody's trying to survive. It's kind of like the hood. So you had to be tough. You had to be like, you had to defend yourself. And we were living in a world in which the queer people, the only very few queer people that I knew, and I talk about Ugo in my show, he was a queer man who could not hide his queerness. He was very effeminate, you know, and he was bullied, he was made fun of, he was ridiculed, and he died of AIDS at a young age. So that was the examples that, you know, we had growing up. I didn't see a successful gay man growing up loving himself and accepting himself and adopting kids and having a healthy relationship. I never saw that. The other queer person that I found out about later on in the years was this other woman. Her name is Patricia. May she rest in peace. And she ended up committing suicide. And we all think that it had to do with her not accepting her queerness. So these were the queer people that I knew, at least back in the 80s when I was growing up in Colombia. So my family's reaction to my queerness came from a place of protection. So I want to make sure I say that first because I
Yes.
don't want to
I
give people,
understand that. I understand that 100%. percent
you don't want your child to get picked on. You don't want your child to be hurt. You don't want your child. So that's where that came from. And it's taken some time, like me going through my divorce and all of that in order for them to begin to um, soften up about that. And they've come a long way. We really have come a long way. Um, I can still feel a little bit of hesitancy, like if I'm being 100% honest with them, but at the same time, I know they're trying their best, you know, given the circumstances and given who they are. And at this point in my life, whatever hesitancy, whatever issues they may have, I've completely separated myself from that. Those are their problems.
That's
That's
awesome. That's true. Like I saw something that it says what people think about you is none of your business. Like whatever people say or think about me is none of my business.
it's their perception of life is their perception of what a queer person is. And what I try to do, especially with this show, is try to educate people and try to show them that, you know what, queer people, gay people have been around for ages. It's not new, you know. Heck,
It's in the Bible. Thousands and thousands of years in the Bible.
it's in the what is this what is the Indian oh my god, I'm blanking. The Bhagavad Gita talks about it. The
Oh yeah.
yeah, the Kama Sutra talks about it. Like it's in many cultures. It's in
It
Greek culture.
is.
It's been homosexuality and queerness is something that's been around since forever. And that's part of what the message, one of the messages that I try to get through in my show. Like um just because something is not the majority doesn't mean that it's not natural. It's not the it's not unnatural. It's not against nature. You know, it's just as part of the human experience as everything else. You know, I talk about there's a metaphor that I use in my piece where the angel tells me, you are a phenomenon of Mother Nature, like the great conjunctions of the sky gods who come together in a dance around the sun every 800 years, a rare occurrence, but natural nonetheless. And
Oh.
I'm talking about during my 40th birthday, it just so happened that Saturn and Jupiter had their conjunctions.
Oh wow. I saw that. I recorded the sky. Did you get a view of the sky how beautiful it was?
Listen,
Go
and
ahead.
never,
Say it again.
but you could actually see the planets like as one big planet for like an entire week because they come together around the sun and they're doing their orbit together, and it happens every 800 years.
Wow.
It's rare. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. It's the same thing with queer people. Most
Yes.
people are heterosexual. Most people, are more on that spectrum. But there's also a lot of gay people. There's also a lot of people that are in between. And I think now, you mentioned about we're going to a space now of accepting that. And I think also people are becoming more okay with realizing that even within themselves they may have some queerness, and being okay with that. So going back to the topic of my family, yes, they have shown so much support. They have given me so much support throughout this. I didn't expect it. I wasn't expecting anything from anybody at this point in my life. I was like, this is my life, this is what I'm doing. You either like it or you don't. I'm still gonna love you. Obviously, it feels good to have their support.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, they've definitely come.
That's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that for you, Jair. And that in itself is also a blessing when you just want your family to love you, right? In the end, for who you are, right? And so how interesting that you're saying about the phenomenon, because I was, like I used to go to church a lot, and I'm like, I still have my gay friends, and I'm like, and I didn't like that talk in churches about how it's evil. And that never really, I'm like, no, God loves us. And like Jesus said, sat and ate with everyone. And I'm like, if he didn't deny those people, why are you denying those people? It's like, oh, he said don't sin. I'm like, look, whatever. I love Jesus and I love gay people, right? Like that's what I'm like. I'm not God and I cannot damn anybody. You said, be treated like you want to be treated. All of that is like how you're not being Christian right now because you're not loving on people. Leave people alone. It's like I have this whole
Actually, part of my process of writing this play came about. Because I grew up, I talk about this in my play too. I grew up going to Catholic schools in Colombia, and I think most people grow up, especially in Colombia, we grow up with the Catholic religion being a big part in our lives, and that was part of my struggle, like what the Bible says about homosexuals and queer people. And so I bought this book. Gosh, and forgive me, I don't remember the name.
No, it's okay. You can give me later, and I'll share it.
It talks about it's a Catholic priest who talks about why, and I think it's called Why Homosexuality or Homosexuality in the Bible, and he makes very interesting points. I'm obsessed with also like religion and like dogma and like all these things. I have another one-person show in which I play Jesus.
Okay.
That's another conversation. But I've always been like intrigued by this and so I've read it and it really like causes a reaction in me. So this particular book, he talks about how we have to look at the meanings of words within the time that they were written and what they meant, and how if someone is going to use, and I think he uses the example of the word abomination in the Greek translation to the word abomination, or the word unusual. And pretty much the point that he makes is the same point that I made before, is that just because something is not usual or the norm doesn't mean that it's bad or evil. And he gives examples within the Bible where he says, look, they're using this word to say that gays are evil. They're saying that they're unnatural. But then in the Bible, in another passage, they're also using the same word to describe God in his reaction to something that happened. And I can't remember exactly what it is. So he brings up that point of like, let's look at the historical context of what these words meant. And he's like, I'm not claiming anything, because it's a conversation that I'm sure theologians like have can go on and on and on about. But he does make a good point about that.
Mm-hmm.
um how, if you're gonna use this word to mean one thing here, then it has to mean the same thing here. And you cannot say that God is evil. So therefore, this particular word cannot mean that these people are evil either. So yeah, so it's, and
Yeah.
the name of the book.
Mm-hmm.
The book.
Yes. Let me tell you, there are
Yeah.
some people in my life who are gay and I will trust leaving my children with. And there are some people who I know are straight and I will never leave my children with them. So there, you understand? Like evil
Yes.
is not evil. Yeah, evil is not in the person's you know, way of deciding how to live, choosing who they are.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes
um, hmm?
sometimes disguises itself as something benevolent, right? So which is why I make my negative internal voice a priest, because
Oh, in
not
your play, you have two voices, don't you?
yes, the angel and the priest. So I
Mhm.
make the priest kind of like the bad guy. It's just it's just an ironic metaphor, like it's not saying that all priests are bad, but for me, a priest was someone that you trust, someone that if they tell you something, they're talking the word of God, right? But a lot of people, a lot of wolves dress up in sheep's clothing, and they really don't have your best interest in mind.
The priest's voice pretends to be looking out for me, to be concerned about my salvation, but all he does is tear me down and lead me to dark places that I care not visit. And during the quarantine, when all I had were my thoughts and my isolation and the priest's voice ringing in my ears, I was forced to be with myself and all its ugly parts. I was forced to face my darkness.
They sure do not. I was just talking to a friend of mine about that. Some people glorify the priest. I'm like, that is a human being.
Hmm.
And the one you come in to glorify is the one he's talking about. And the reason he sounds so powerful is because those are not his words. Those are the words of the God from the Bible. So get it straight, people, as far as, because people do live on what a priest says. Like that's godly. Because it's
Yeah.
godly words, but it's, he's still a human being, and they have faults. Many faults. We were just talking about a pastor that I had who fell from grace and cheated on his wife, then divorced, and like a lot of drama, right? But that's a man who gave into the flesh. He is not God. Like you guys were looking at him like in a really big light, and people assume, especially the Latino community. I can't say African Americans because maybe I think anybody who goes to church when they look at up to this man up there talking and they just look at him in awe we got to see that that's a human being and we all are in the end sinners and there was only one great person and if we could be like him then hey it will be such a beautiful world. He gave us the ways, but we got to follow the ways. um
Well, that's actually what my first solo show is about. When I wrote the Jesus play, um it's that particular moment in the Bible where he goes to the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, and he's tempted by Satan 3 times in the end. You know that story.
yes.
So that's what it's based on. Difference is that he is his own devil. He is his own Satan, and he's actually. I don't know if you remember. One of the temptations is the devil tells him, if you're really the son of God, go ahead and throw yourself off this cliff, and angels will come and save you. And then he responds by saying, "Well, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God." So I interpreted that moment in my piece as like he was contemplating suicide
Yeah.
because he just couldn't deal with the world anymore. And he knew what was coming. And so as a man, he's like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I'm just a man at the end of it. And he overcomes all of that through his spirituality,
Yeah.
which other things that I've added onto there. And the whole point of that is, and the whole point of Jesus to me is to show us that he too was human like us.
Yeah.
And if he was able to find grace through the power of the Christ,
Mhm.
in him as the Christ, then that is what he's telling us that we can do as well.
Amen. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Jair, I love that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you how,
That
and you
happened.
know, how we are gods.
Yeah. Yes. Because
Like,
what happens,
go ahead.
like
Continue.
people, we end up putting priests and people like Jesus up on a pedestal. Why? Yes, they're wise, they were masters, yes, they know what they're saying. But if we keep doing that, we're looking at them from up here, and we're never going to be able to say, oh, I can do that. I can be there. And that is the message that they want us to be able to learn, is to be like, yes, the Christ is in me, God is in me,
Yes.
I
Yes.
am that I am, you know. So,
Yes.
and so that's the title of that show. It's titled I Am. Yeah.
Well, the great I am. I am the great I am. And it's like, your affirmations. Like, I do affirmations, and I love that because it is whatever you say. Like, I am the great I am is, you say I am Christ, then yes, you are. I was telling a friend of mine, and I said, that, like, we are gods. Jesus said we are gods. So she's like, what are you talking about? It says in the Bible, didn't we say we are gods in Psalms? And then I go check in Psalms, and it says, yes, that we are gods with a small g. We're not the God.
The
But
God.
we, as his, like, it's so crazy. As his children, we have his gifts. We are creators. We make things happen. And it's like, how can you not see that? And like,
Yeah.
how come you heard Jesus say, like, you read the Bible, he says, you're gonna do this and more? How is Jesus, who we put him as God, right? How
Yeah.
is he saying that we're gonna do more than what he just showed us that he did? How is that possible? But people know he meant it this. Like, no, I think he meant that literally.
Yeah.
So, and it's like that's something that Christians will. As I mean, I could call myself a Christian. I mean, I'm one of those, big open-minded Christians, right? And I like to learn about all other religions, and I don't want to. I feel like God is in everything. God is, He's breath. He's a rock. He's a leaf. He's a butterfly. He's everything,
Oh my God,
right?
goosebumps right now.
Well, so I'm like, so why are you like? So I believe in the stories, that we read in all, in all the religions, that God is there communicating with the people in His way, in the way that He knew this is how they're gonna get me. This is how they're gonna understand my message, and throughout all of it is love. Throughout all of it is love and acceptance, and you are not better than no one. Like, where can you not see that? Where do you not see that? You know? And it's just so many lessons in all of these stories.
So many. And it's funny that you talk about love, because that's how the angel ends up combating the priest's voice in my piece in Queer. Because at some point the priest, I don't know if you remember this, he quotes Leviticus to me. you know, if you lie with a male as with a woman, you have committed an abomination. Leviticus 18:22. Leviticus 20:13. If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And so the angel turns back and she says, well, John 4:7-8. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. And whoever loves is born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. So, boom.
Drop the mic on that, and it's true. And nobody can deny what love feels like. And that's his language. That's the, like,
And I also
Like,
talk about this in the play. Like it's written in the Bible in that way. You know, Leviticus 2, I think, I mean, this is all theology, we can get into it, but ironically enough, in some parts of the world, there are punishment for being gay is either you get whipped or you go to jail or they kill you. You know, I not too long ago in Spain, somebody was killed for being gay on the streets. A mob, they jumped the man and they killed him just for being gay, just for
my
being
goodness.
themselves. And that's something that happens even in this country here in Los Angeles. I have friends who are gay couple. They just married last year. They were living in kind of kind of a shady area in Los Angeles, and people wrote faggot on their building. And this is in Los Angeles, you know, and it's crazy. You
It
know,
is.
I hear about people who are in they're celebrating Pride in the Pride parades in Miami, and there's like a couple of guys that come around and start jumping one or the other and hurt them, and like this kind of thing happens still, and within our own backyard.
Wow.
It may not be in the law or in the books, but you gotta be careful. Like if you get like in Miami and Florida, like if you go in the wrong backwoods and you end up somewhere, and if you're somebody of color, watch out, be careful, drive away quickly. B, if you're queer or something, like people will hurt you. People, yeah. So it's important to talk about this. It's
Mhm.
important to educate people, and it's important to help normalize it, because that shouldn't be the case. Your blood shouldn't be upon you for the way that God has made you, you know and that's something it's a never going battle.
It is. It's like our world is still in such a transformation of healing. Even with racism, because it's racism. It's a we call it being homophobic, but it's a form of, I guess, race deals with race, right? Like, and the weirdest part was when I heard, I remember a friend of mine, not a friend, someone that I met, how there are groups of gay people who are racist. And I'm like, how could you be gay and racist? And it's true.
Unfortunately, in the gay community, it does exist, unfortunately. you know
You would think that you want to be accepted, and that you would understand that, but that is how sick our
Our-
the mind is, as far as just accepting. Like,
if
you're
you
asking for acceptance, but then you think this way. How can you, like, how do those two
give that
connect?
to someone else too, if that's the grace and what, that's something that I've learned, like with my family, for example. If I want them to accept me for who I am, I have to accept them for who they are, even if it's against my own beliefs. I have to give them that grace as well, and say, okay, that's what you believe. That's on you, but this is what I believe, and this is me. And it definitely is something. Yeah, you have to give that grace that you're asking for.
Yes, right. Like, in the end, that's what it is. But in all of it, my prayer is, for enlightenment,
Yeah.
awakening, and acceptance and respect and love for just the human race. Period. Um, God knows what's gonna happen in the future, right? Where we're gonna start, seeing AI and seeing them as, oh, they're artificial intelligence, and they want to be loved and accepted, and like we have robots walking around, and because that's what's coming out now as far as the evolution of man. Like, it will be really messed up.
Yeah, I that's something that I definitely, like during my prayers and meditations. That's something that I too pray for the human race, for us to heal that illusion of separation. We
Yes.
we latch on to as human beings to whatever we can to say, oh, I'm different from this person because of this. I think, especially, and this is a goal that I have as an artist, especially now, like finishing the Fringe Festival and seeing some of the other shows that I saw. It's so funny. We all come from different perspectives of life. You know, here was someone, just to give you a few examples. One of my friends wrote about being half black and half white and being a gay man, and his show dealt with identity. Here was a white woman who is queer and had problems with bedwetting. Her theme was identity. Another girl who was half I think Ecuadorian and half white, comes from a Mormon church, dealing with identity, getting to know who she is. And everyone, we're all coming from different perspectives of life, and we're all different cultures, different, the whole rainbow. But our human experience is the same. This human experience, we all really are one. Do you know how we talked about like how we're God? Well, God is in all of us.
Yeah.
God is, we are all that oneness that brings us together is something that I pray um, for the human race, for us to begin to heal that perception of separation, that
Yeah.
we're not.
We're
We are
not.
not. And we need to heal that, because it's like it's just so heavy, like, to, my God, to see like even the wars and the things that are happening. It's like we do that to each other. It's like, when are we gonna wake up from that and realize we're doing that to each other? Like that needs to change. So as an artist, as a human being, that's something that I want to put like in the forefront of my work and what I do, and make an attempt to bring that onto the world, you know, and
You
hopefully,
are, Jair. You
oh,
are.
you know.
That's I love all of everything that you're saying. I am so in agreement with you. So and so it is, and so it shall be. Because, I guess, in this show, it's called Love, Awaken, and Prosper, because that's really what I want the world to understand, to love one another, to awaken, there's so many reasons why people are the way they are. But somehow I'm always within education, and I would like to find out what is it that we can do to share with our children, and share, with their parents and adults, like that, to just live in a life of loving yourself and never judging, anyone else, and to always just be figure out how to be of service in this planet, like living your purpose. Like, what's your purpose? And I think us we as storytellers have that responsibility. When I look at Jesus, going back to him, how he spoke in parables, because that's the only way that they would understand. Remember, like, that's what it says in the Bible. So what we're doing is his work as storytellers, as writers, as artists, as creators, as actors. We're doing it. We're doing what he's doing, and I think that's, and in closing, is saying that is this and more. You will do this and more, and we're able to do that, right? Isn't that wonderful?
Wonderful.
It's wonderful. I can't wait. Okay, I can't wait to see this Jesus I Am play.
I'm actually thinking of making it into a movie, actually.
Oh my goodness.
For sure.
Okay, Jair, you understand that you and I, like, cause a lot of my work, I think I call myself, I'm writing screenplays, so I call myself a sci-fi spiritual dramatic writer, right? because I like to use. I always bring Jesus into it. I don't. It just. He has to come visit. I do. You know, I gotta talk about you. So I always bring him in the works of the things the stories that I'm creating, and that's gonna be a beautiful one because I'm actually writing one too. And hey, I feel like it might. You know, I think it's just in the air. It's through osmosis. I think his story, the desire to just write about him, because you're not the only one I've heard about. You know, writing something concerning Jesus, and I'm like, oh, that must be in the atmosphere. You
Yes.
know, how we're just like pulling it from the higher consciousness,
Yeah.
the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good thing. So that means you must do it,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yeah.
I must do it.
Yes.
Okay, so we will. That will be great. So,
Now,
and what do you wanna? I mean, you said a lot already, but I just wanna have you like just close out, and I don't know if you wanna do an affirmation or prayer for the world, for my audience, for the people who get to see this, of just your last thoughts that you want to just leave with my audience members.
I'm gonna say a little bit that my closing monologue, a little bit of my closing monologue, because
Awesome.
I think it's a good way of closing this. It's the last part, and it says, "Who I am today is no accident, no mistake. I am nature in all her glory, in full throttle and awake. Divine love made our planet with all its gravitational pulls and magnetic fields, distance far enough, but not too close to the sun, just right for us to exist. And likewise, the design of who we are in this moment, right here and now, is in tune with that same love, so we must persist. We are the everlasting expression of oneness, of creation, who was made perfect without questions. And in this moment, in this fearful anticipation, I embrace, I flow with my ever expanding immortal spirit, and I embrace my divine lesson." That's the closing speech of the show of Queer.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for thank you for your spirit. Thank you for your gift. Wow. I'm just feeling the spirit right now. I'm so full right now.
Yeah, you too.
Your words are beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me your time. Thank you for saying yes to this interview. Thank you for whew, thank you for your gifts, God. Thank you for giving us your gifts, because some people will just sit on it and not use it. And I thank you that you have become courageous enough and brave enough to tell your story and to share your beautiful words. You have such beautiful words. They're so magical. They're so full. They're so full. They have so much. So much. Woof. Ooh, I'm feeling it. It's still here, Jair. Ah, why did you? Thank you. Thank you. I feel so blessed to just be in your presence right now. Thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best, Jair. And I know we're going to hear so much about you. I see beautiful, beautiful big things for you. I see you connecting with the world in such a way, and stay in your prayer and your protection. May the Lord protect you from the top of your head to the bottom of the soles of your feet, and the works that you're doing and what you're saying, what you're about to create, to open up the minds of everyone in this planet and the universe. So just always stay in your words and your protection, your belief, and that you're gonna be okay. Yeah, okay. I love it. Thank you so much. Woo! I love it. So everyone, thank you for watching Love, Awaken, and Prosper. I am so blessed that you're here to watch and support the show. Please press like, please comment. Let me know what you thought about Jair and his work and the subject matters that we spoke about. And yes, please subscribe. And Jair, I'm gonna definitely put your links. Your Instagram link is your name, right? Jair Bula. Instagram. All right, so I'll definitely have his link available below.
Yes.
God bless you. I love you. Mwah. Goodbye.